Yeah, if you want to have more effect, and especially when you are using the VRT for the abduction purpose, then you may or may not do a resection. But if you want more effect, then you can do it. But when you're using for adduction, it is better to do it. Because you remember on the abduction side is going to be stretched in any case. Right? So I think we will move on to the next topic, that is the Duane's retraction syndrome cases. As you all must have seen cases of DRS, they present to us in the form of having a limitation of abduction and also having a marked retraction on attempted adduction with a marked upshoot, as you'll see here. Where is the pointer, sir? And a downshoot, as you'll see up in the attempted adduction. So this is a case of an EXO-DRS. Similarly, in EXO-DRS cases, in this right eye, you have, thank you, Divya. So what you see here is an exotropia in primary position. Limited abduction is there, still in spite of exo. Now, one thing we have to remember, many times people feel that exo is same as abduction. When we will recess, this exo will reduce. That doesn't mean that abduction has reduced. There is no abduction, as you can see here. And on attempted adduction, there is a marked retraction, upshoot and downshoot of the globes. So these cases are also, if you do an MRI, you will find a missing sixth nerve on the high definition MRIs. If you actually want to understand what is happening it's an innervational problem. It's a congenital cranial disinnervation disorder. Primarily the sixth nerve hypoplasia or the nerve has been affected. So the LR is not getting its innervation. And then the innervation is being fed by the third nerve, which leads to the LR firing during adduction. This is the type 1 EXO type of DRS. Or it may have some amount of abduction coming in the LR, but still there is a miswiring because of coming from the third nerve. Or it may be both, at all times there is a miswiring from both sixth nerve and third nerve, the type 3 DRS. So these cases you may have very gross upshoots and downshoots, almost disappearance of the eye because of the co-contractions that are occurring. And the propulsion of the globe can be seen here, and there is an adduction, retraction is visible very clearly here. If you do a force degeneration test, what do we mean by that is that when the person is looking in adduction, you hold the globe and you will feel a little bit of tightening. Why? Because there is a co-contraction. The LR is contracting during attempted adduction. But the moment you ask him to abduct, you will feel a give. The lateral rectus is suddenly relaxed. When it is supposed to fire, the lateral rectus does not. So lateral rectus gives, and you will actually have the adduction happening when you are asking him to abduct. So this is the paradoxic innervation, which you can actually see it, and this is very nicely described by Romero Apis. So these Duane's retraction cases are about 1 to 4% of the general population. These are the statistics, we may not go into the details. How do we manage these cases? The primary objective is to reduce the co-contraction, obtain the balance alignment in primary position, obtain concomitant rotation as much as possible to increase the binocular fields, and at least give him good cosmesis. So the three things which you have to remember is, what is it in the primary position? An EXO, EXO or ortho. Secondly, look for any significant co-contraction leading to an upshoot and downshoot. So your case may or may not have that much of upshoot and downshoot, and that will be an important feature to distinguish what surgery will do. And thirdly, look for the passive or force reduction test intraoperatively. Now these are important to decide your approach in surgery. The ideal solution will be to paradoxically innervating LR should be isolated. Second is to correct the deviation in primary position and improve the abduction by the vertical rectus transpositioning. So in EXO-DRS, what we are suggesting is do an FDT, do the MR recession in a case in which there is a tight FDT, but only that much which is required to release the FDT. Rest of the EXO should be corrected by the opposite MR. The contralateral normal MR can be used to correct the EXO, which is there, but not more, because if you do more of MR recession on the ipsilateral DRS eye, you may have the synergistic divergence. You are weakening the MR. The LR is co-contraction is there, which is paradoxically acting during adduction. So you will have abduction, as you had seen on that Romero Apis test. On attempting adduction, there will be abduction. So it will cause a very weird movement, as you will see in some of the case. I'll show you. So what you need to do in such cases is LR recession with Y split should be added if there is a significant co-contraction. Why a Y split? because you have a slippage which is because of tight muscles, and Y splitting helps to prevent this slippage. This is showing you how the Y splitting is done, that you would separate it, the LR is being separated, and then the upper and the lower segments are split by about 21 to 22 mm, and the recession is done from 7.5 to 10 mm depending on amount of the exo that is there, or the amount of weakening that you want to create. Now this child, you see here, left ESO DRS was there, and 4.5 mm alone MR recession has really caused on the second day a marked exo and worsening on the adduction. So what we need to do as a post-op again is a LLR recession of 7.5 mm to correct it. So remember, this may have to be done in cases if you are not seeing the co-contraction and missing the co-contraction on the initial phase, that you have an exo consecutive on the next day. Y splitting with LR recession, large 12 to 18 mm LR recession or periostal fixation are the choices in exo DRS. Now we move on to the exo DRS cases, and so we need to basically tackle the LR, which is mischievous, which has to be tackled. Avoid doing any surgery on MR in exo DRS cases. You don't have to weaken both MR and LR as a general rule. It is like a quarrel is going down and the police comes in and puts both of them in behind the bars. That is a general tendency of the police. But actually it's only one mischievous person who was doing the mischief, the other one was only saving himself. But the police will put both of them. So many strabismologists are doing that they'll do a differential recession of both MR and LR. The ideal approach is just catch hold of the mischievous person and put him behind the bar, and in this case it is the lateral rectus. So, okay, we will come to that. So what we will do is that if you find that the exotropia and retraction is quite marked, co-contraction is quite marked, then it is better to do a periosteal fixation. And we have seen that now this was a bilateral exo DRS. In one eye we did the supramaximum LR recession of 18 mm in the right eye. Now see what has happened in the right eye. The abduction is there a little bit, but on attempted adduction there is a limitation still, and there is a retraction. Compare this. Can you all see? In spite of the surgery, there is a retraction still there. And on the other side, when we did the periosteal fixation, now this has improved this eye, the retraction pre-op has improved, and this is much better now. So you need to do a periosteal fixation whenever there is a severe co-contraction of and marked exotropia. And if the exotropia is less, then probably you can do a supramaximal recession and get away with it. Now this case had come to us, surgery had done elsewhere, and residual exo DRS was there in spite of the first surgery. See how much of exo is still there. Somebody did bilateral LR recessions of 8 mm, thinking that he was doing a great job. But for Duane's exos, 8 mm is homeopathic dose. So it will not work. So 6 mm recession also was done by him, thinking that the downshoot is because of an inferior rectus, which is the problem. It was actually a downshoot because of co-contraction. And what we did was just explore the left LR and recessed it 13 plus 7 mm. 20 mm of recession I did. And after the surgery, his exo was reduced, co-contraction got reduced from here. And then we just added on the other eye the same thing, and he was perfectly aligned. So now at this 18 mm, if you are doing a 20 mm, you can't do Y split because you can't reach. 20 mm as it is, you will see, you can't do a recession, you will have to do a hemi-hangback. So Y split is not going to be practical. So usually there is a choice between a Y split or a supramaximal recessions. Then the vertical rectus transpositioning can be done in addition to improve the abduction. And this we will not go into more detail, but just show you the pictures. Pre-op, this is a case in which only periosteal fixation has been done and the abduction is limited. But if you do the pre-op with split VRT, see the correction, abduction also has improved. The adduction, there is, see this picture pre-op, there is a retraction, upshoot, downshoot, and see this, there is no upshoot, no downshoot, no retraction, and abduction has also improved. So even such cases which are very complex can be given binocular vision and improvement in all these cases. What we need to achieve is the correction not only in primary position but also a retraction and upshoot, downshoot free eyes. This is a case in which the ESO DRS is there. This is 4 mm recession of one eye alone has been done. It has been effective. Another case in which ortho was there. Now ortho becomes a tricky thing. He has binocular vision in the primary position, but the basic problem is an upshoot and downshoot. Why he has come to us is the retraction, the upshoot and downshoot, but ortho in the primary position. Now such cases are going to be more difficult to tackle, because if you do anything and lose this ortho positioning, it will be counterproductive. So in such cases you have to be working on both MR and LR, and LR recession with bisplit, so that we can correct it with this. Similarly, an ESO-DRS with an inferior oblique overaction, marked upshoot, inferior oblique overaction is also there. Now these cases require a specific management, that you would have to do a bisplit with inferior oblique weakening. And see, now the eyes are corrected, the hypertropia, retraction, everything has got aligned. So exactly. So what you should see is fundus, see for the extortion, look for the hypertropia in the primary position. That will help you in distinguishing whether it's only an upshoot or it's an inferior oblique overaction. Right? So this is a case in which I showed you synergistic divergence, and after the LR recession, the eyes get aligned. So these are, I think we will stop at the DRS cases and move on to the just a quick roundabout of different types of presentations that we have encountered, some of them, and just have your interaction. What have you imbibed? This will be like a quick session. These are the shots that we are going to take, parting shots. This is the last session, and that's why it is so thin, because people have to move out back to their home or maybe for food before that. This is a child having a brighter reflex in the eye. What does it indicate? This is a Bruckner's reflex, yes, and it is a simple test which will tell you ESO deviation apart from the problem that there is no media opacity. Secondly, what will be your diagnosis in this case? Exo, worsening in up gaze, lessening in down gaze. A V pattern, and on the side gaze is hypertropia occurring, indicating an inferior oblique overaction. So what you have to say is, there is a V exo with bilateral inferior oblique overaction requiring weakening of the inferior obliques. There may be a V pattern without the obliques. Okay? So always look for it specifically. What is here? An A esotropia with bilateral superior oblique overactions. What for superior oblique overaction? Look for the superior limbus. For inferior oblique overaction, look for the inferior limbus, not the coverage of the cornea by the lids. Without superior oblique overaction here, you will find that the eyes are almost at the same level, the superior limbus. But still there is an A, ESO, less in the down gaze. So we will have to manage them. Fundus, as you are asking, look for the fundus. Inferior oblique overaction will have this extortion. And after the surgery, this can be corrected. If you have the inferior oblique corrected, you will be straight. Now this child had a bilateral inferior oblique overaction, and there was a V, ESO in down gaze, exo in up gaze, ortho in primary position. So no horizontal deviations to be tackled. Only the inferior obliques are being tackled, and you have straightening of the eyes in up, down ESO is also corrected, as well as the hypertropia is corrected. So all the gazes can be corrected. So when we measure the deviations, now a little take home message which you can all remember, just by doing a proper prism bar cover test, but in different settings, you will get a lot of information. If you differentiate between distance and near, you will know whether it's a basic type, convergence excess, or a divergence insufficiency type of esotropia. In exos, it may be basic, convergence insufficiency, or a divergence excess type. So simple PBCT, but for distance 6 meters or 10 meters, and for near 33 centimeters. Secondly, look for the different 9 gazes. Incompetence can be easily picked up. Thirdly, look for up gaze and down gaze for A and B patterns. Up 25 degrees and down 35 degrees. Fourth, deviations with each eye fixing. Primary versus secondary deviation will pick up a paralletic squint. Fifth, subjective method and objective method. Now this is most commonly we are not doing because we rarely come across cases of retinal correspondence. But you can only pick up a retinal correspondence by doing a test by subjective method and objective method. And then what you will get is the angle of anomaly being there if objective angle is different than subjective angle. Sixth, prolonged cover test to differentiate a true divergence excess from the simulated divergence excess exotropias. And it will tell you whether there is a true divergence excess or simulated, and also sometimes a full manifestation of an exotropia which may be masked. Seventh, deviations with and without glasses, the dynamic deviation. So I think our speakers have covered these topics. Just wanted to bring to your thing as a take-home message all these points, if you remember, a simple prism bar cover test will lead to all the diagnoses that we have been talking about. So simple tools. The most important equipment that a strabismologist requires is the most important thing, by the way, is already given by God to us. And as my teacher used to say, the most important equipment is between your 2 ears. So the brain that we have to use all the time. And rest of the things are, yes. But you are right, prism bar cover tests, accommodatory targets are definitely going to be used. And these are like blowout fractures, inverse snaps, somebody said. This is a case in which you will see an underrection of the inferior oblique. And if you do a head tilt test, there is a downshoot. See that? Opposite of superior oblique palsies. Rarely inferior oblique palsies also come across, and you can do a head tilt test to differentiate. And after the surgery, we can do it. Now this is the lady in which the inferior oblique palsy was there, and we did a superior oblique expander, and she is now having a elevation improved. This is a case of limitation of elevation in adduction, a Brown syndrome with a chin up position. So what you need to do is a surgery for that once you have diagnosed. This is a case of, what do you see here? Mobius. So bilateral sixth nerve, ESO is there, teeth, you can see abnormality in the teeth, and so it's a Mobius syndrome. And you can see the other things may be there, the tongue may be like this, the talipes equinovarus may be there, so you can look for that and look for the conditions. If MRI you do, you'll see the missing, say, 7th nerve as well as bilateral 6th nerve missing. Another case of Mobius syndrome, and what they may require is MR recession, both the eyes. This is a synergistic divergence. An abduction on the right side is there, but when you ask him to look on this side, the abduction has become more than what you see on the right side. It's a simultaneous abduction. Then aberrant regenerations, you can operate on the other eye, as we talked about, fixational duress surgery. And this is here a synergistic innervational downshoot, that the eye on adduction is moving down. There is a downshoot which is innervational. So these cases again you have to see, and with the help of the MRI and our colleagues who are very enthusiastic, Dr. Shweta, Abhijit, and so we have been able to see on MRI you can see the changes in different gazes. What is happening, the inferior rectus on the lateral gaze, left levo gaze is becoming more contracted. And on topical anesthesia we can actually see the contraction of that. And after this surgery you can get the correction of these abnormal positions. So these are disinnervations that we have talked about today. MLF lesions, INO, internuclear ophthalmoplegia, may be there. And these are third nerve palsies with missing ptosis and pupils. Indicates a bilateral nuclear involvement. A superior oblique palsy may be associated in third nerve palsies. A bilateral head tilt test will pick up these cases. And if there is a normal fourth nerve in presence of a third nerve palsy, what you ask him to look down and see the intorsion of the nasal vessel. And finally, the DRS that we talked about, how do you manage? We have just mentioned. So these are cases that you need to see individually and do the right job, and that will be very, very gratifying to all of you, and to our children we need to do this much. So thank you all for attending this last session. If there are any questions,